we can get this into our what's called our giving issue. We talk about causes and different ways that business leaders and executives give back to the community or causes that they're involved in. So I want to, obviously this is a huge news story as well, but with the recovery going on in Puerto Rico, what's your involvement been like? Have you been involved in, obviously you've been involved in helping your business recover and your customers probably and clients, but I mean, just maybe you could talk to me about how you've been, kind of helping out like on the ground there and, getting things.
Sure. So let me tell you sort of two ways, and I think that'll segue to Liana.
Sure.
MCS has always been a very philanthropic company. I think through the years we've given away over $4 million, and which is quite an accomplishment when you understand that our business is sort of been tremendously suffering from cuts from the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
Through no particular intended purpose, our revenue's gone down almost 30% per person since 2011. So that really puts a lot of pressure on the industry. But nonetheless, we always felt that we wanted to be good stewards. So we had a private version of this MCS Foundation that gave away money, every year, and totaling almost $4 million through how many years, Liana? 6 or 7 years?
Yeah, since 2011.
Since 2011, and then when the hurricane hit, we thought, this is really bad. I mean, it is, 100% of the power was knocked out. They had a meeting for the 70-ish mayors a week after, and like 20% of these people weren't even heard from. I mean, so it is, it is somewhere between the Revolution and Escape from New York. Wow. That people just couldn't find people, and the roads were bad, and then the power is bad, and even currently, at lunch today, we're talking a lot about the power. So we said, what? We need to help. MCS needs to help. So Liana and I, the hurricane hit on the second hurricane hit on the 20th of September. Maria hit on the 20th of September.
Yeah.
But some of our people, really from the beginning of September, Irma hit on September 6th, about 50 miles north of the island. But a lot of people lost the power on Irma.
Yeah.
So from Irma, we started giving people lunches and working with people. But the metro area here in San Juan was not as much affected. But when Maria hit on Wednesday, September 20th, and people noticed Irma like the Sunday, the September 17th is when people noticed Maria.
Maria.
And so people were not ready for this. They were still sort of debilitated from Irma, and then all of a sudden,
honestly, the news coverage followed Irma, I think, is what occurred.
Yeah, followed Irma,
so,
right.
So we see a lot of the same news there that you all see here. So after Irma left us, it just continued, and CNN was still talking about Irma, and that's what they were talking about. And so the news coverage followed Irma all the way through, and then all of a sudden Irma's gone, and it's like, wait a minute, there's another one. And it was just kind of a shock for everybody.
So when Maria hit, we stayed at some friend's house, and we couldn't get out really their neighborhood for 2 days because trees were knocked down. And the power was down everywhere. I mean, 100% everywhere. It's just, 100%. Nobody had power. And maybe in those early days, a few people had generators. So we said, and we couldn't get out of the neighborhood because there were so many trees knocked down. So we said, boy, this is going to be a problem. That Friday the 22nd, we came by the office. Liana and I came by the office, and there was a lot of broken windows, and a lot of floors were uninhabitable. But by and by, the building, the building and the construction on the cement buildings in Puerto Rico is very good. But this is going to be tough on our people. So that day, the 22nd Friday and the 23rd Saturday, our management team came in and we said, listen, we have to commit to help people. So we were wondering how many people would come in. Puerto Rico is 110 by 35 miles. And we have 1,400 people in our office, and we thought, gosh, we'd be lucky to have 300 people here. And we said, but for Irma, what we did was when people came in, we knew they'd be appreciative And so the management team got here at 7. We served breakfast to everybody at 7 to welcome them back to the company. To tell them we're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. And we said, but Maria obviously was a lot worse than Irma.
Yeah.
So that day we came in, we talked to the restaurants downstairs, and we said, feed our people. We don't know how many people, but feed them all. So we commandeered the couple restaurants, and we had over 1,000 people show up here.
Wow.
So we said, envision that Puerto Rico is a very family-oriented island. And so we set up a daycare for free for our people, and we ended up having that daycare for a couple of weeks. We ended up paying people all their food for 2 or 3 weeks, and we let spouses come in even when we were struggling to even keep the building open because we didn't have gas, because we really wanted to be good stewards and help people. We give free parking. We let them take home food at night. We gave them food all day. You know, they were doing just a modicum of work, but we said, listen, we have air conditioning, we have a place you can feel safe and feel comfortable. And at that time, we said, listen, we need to do more with our foundation. What we've done is I've had in the back of my mind that we would give back more formally than even the $4 million we've given through the last 6 years. And I asked Liana if she would help to be part of the foundation, and then she came up with the idea that we should raise $1 million. Mm-hmm. And she said, should we, could you guys match a $500,000 fundraiser? And we said, absolutely, for the good of Puerto Rico. So we came up with the Green for Puerto Rico campaign. So, Liana, why don't you take it from there?
Okay.
Sure. So I think that we made the decision to do the Green for Puerto Rico campaign probably the Sunday or Monday. It's a little bit of a blur after the hurricane. And, understanding that at the time, the foundation didn't have a website and really didn't have an external presence. We actually went through a name change, which we filed with corporations because it was in Spanish before, and we knew we needed to go to the U.S. to raise money. Mm-hmm. So we filed a name change. The Puerto Rico government was closed down, so we had to actually go to the convention center to get the paperwork filed where all the government agencies were. We set up a website. We drafted a press release. All with sometimes power, sometimes not, sometimes air conditioning, sometimes not. And air conditioning doesn't sound to be that big a deal, but when you have a building like the ones downtown that have you can't open the windows.
That's a huge
and
deal.
And you're built. Yeah, you're in a 15-story building with no ventilation. There really are no fans to speak of. It's quite an ordeal, and quite a sacrifice for an employee to come in. And even though Jim's right, on the first day we had air, what happened was, you have to feed the generator, and those generators are huge. And I think, Jim, you said the number was something like 1,100 gallons a day of diesel fuel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and that is a huge. It's not an issue of the finances. It's an issue of the fact that there was no diesel on the island. So to keep feeding the beast in order for the air to stay on was impossible. And there were days that they had to shut the air off.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we went in and we got it done, and we did a press release, and we launched a campaign, and we immediately announced certain contributions to certain groups that we knew that we wanted to support, like the Boys and Girls Club and the Unidos for Puerto Rico Fund, which is an initiative of the First Lady of Puerto Rico. And then we went about doing the fundraising. So we have achieved the $1 million goal, and I told Tim a couple weeks ago that I thought we're going to achieve it, and asked him for an additional match. And so he has graciously agreed to have MCS has graciously agreed to extend the match, and so we've completed the initial $1 million, and we're going for another $500,000. To help with the hurricane and set a little aside for the future. So that's been very rewarding for me. I'm doing it on a volunteer basis. Just to be clear, I don't have a salary.
Okay.
And I'm working, it's probably 12 hours a day, I'd say, I've been putting in. But I don't mind it a bit. And it's extremely rewarding. And we've got, the company, unlike other foundations where, the foundations are also having overhead expenses, all of the team that's working on the foundation is being paid by the company, the attorneys, the advertising agency. Every penny of everything is being paid for by MCS. So in addition to their $500,000 contribution, which hopefully will be $750,000, they are also providing all the administrative support And when we go out to a charity as a foundation to make an investment, they're backing up the foundation's money with volunteers, from the company, and also cash out. So one thing that Jim didn't mention is by virtue of the fact that the company, has all these amazing employees, some of which are, for example, call center employees. Some of those people, if the phone lines are down, weren't getting phone calls. But they were being paid. So, what Jim thought of, which I thought was a great idea, was to talk to the employees and ask them if they wanted to volunteer and give back to the recovery efforts, that they could do so. And the company's been paying for that. So that's the other thing that the company's been doing to support us.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really neat.
So Liana's foundation, which has been wildly successful, and to Liana's modesty, she got together with I can see the local YMCA from my office, and it's just been, just decimated. They have a gym, and then their big building is okay, but all their indoor facilities. So Liana got together with the YMCA in the national one. We know them through Tampa, and they ended up raising $200,000 for us to help this local YMCA. But what Liana's foundation does is only can give money to actual tax, legitimate charities as defined by the IRS. So there are plenty of other people who have community causes or individuals. So we decided that we shouldn't just be so. We're very. Our mission our mission is to to provide genuine caring to make for a fuller life. That's what we believe is our company's sort of mission, and so we really try to help people and care about people, and it's something that I believe in, Liana and I believe in, and we really have championed that down here. So the people that wanted to volunteer, it was really a very, very desolate economy the first 1, 2, and 3 weeks. I mean, people didn't have, it was very sad. People, can you imagine? You don't have running water, you don't have electricity at your house. It's Puerto Rican, for God's sakes, the Caribbean. It's warm, it's humid. The water isn't even still is not the potable water is not drinkable. So people sort of appreciated coming to work. So we gave them daycare, we gave them air conditioning the best we could, we gave them food, but they wanted help. So we started this other thing, MCS Contigo. It's an informal process that what Liana described, and we set a goal of every day having 50 to 100 people volunteer in the community. And so we send people out just all over the place with doctors, with local groups, with Liana knows it better than me, but so they're not formal. We don't, we have to go through some hoops to make sure that the people that Liana's foundation gives money to, but the other people who have good causes, an idea that to give meals and food is a big problem. Here, out in the mountains, and then we go out and send 50 to 100 people out every day since probably the first week. And secondarily, we do that for our employees. We took the FEMA application, we sort of privatized it to a corporate kind of level, and we probably, I think today we gave out close to $100,000 to our employees, or this week rather, who had, very unfortunate circumstances befall them. They lost everything. They got flooded. It's a very rural environment once you get 10 miles away from where we are. So we helped our employees with just individual givings. And then of course we had individual food gatherings and clothes gatherings through our HR department. So we really try to help our people. And we believe we fly a lot. I fly a lot, and when I believe what they tell you is that in the event of something untoward happening, when the air comes down, when the mask comes down, breathe yourself, take care of yourself, and then you can help others. So we've really worked very hard to make sure our people are really very well taken care of. There's a lot of unrest in the economy even before all this, and now with this, there's an extreme level of concern. Puerto Rico's going through a bankruptcy and just a myriad of other political problems. And so we wanted people to say, hey, listen, I believe in MCS. I believe that MCS is going to help the community. I feel good about this, and I will feel good enough that I can go out and help my fellow man. So through what Liana's doing, that's a colossal effort to raise $1 million. And I think, frankly, my goal is $2 million. Liana's at 1.5 right now, but between that and 50 to 100 people every day helping, we feel like we're setting a standard down here for making the world a better place, and I think that should be everybody's goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's that's quite a I don't know if sacrifice is the right word, but it is. I mean, you're really, you're sending out. If I understand you correctly, you're sending out your own employees on company time to volunteer in the community, right?
Yep, on our nickel.
Yeah.
Yep, 50 to 100 of them. And Liana's finding the places. We got another guy named Luis Pizarro that's finding the places, and there's no shortage of places. So we sort of vet them, vet the people that are doing it, find out what they do, and we jump in and we send people out. We send vehicles out. We send musicians out to let them have some fun. There's a very music-oriented society down here, and there aren't as many smiles as there used to be, and there isn't as much music and levity and joy.
Right.
We feel like we can help with that.
Are you finding?
Yeah, the musicians, by the way, the ones that come out to our events for the foundation. The musician I talked to said that there's only 5% employment right now for the musicians on the island. So just 95% of them have no work. And so Jim was like, these are charity events, but make sure we have some music guys and let's pay them when they come out and play, because they need to be able to make money also. And that's a lot of the fallout. When you don't have water and you don't have power, you can't open your restaurant, and that means that if you're a waiter or a bartender, you don't have a job to go to.
Yeah.
So there's so much of that people don't hear about.
The hospitality industry is, I don't know when they'll recover. It could be.
Exactly. And the big resorts have all been closed down. We live in an area called Condado, which is by the beach, and the hotels are very slow, and some of the nice resorts are all shut down. So those young people, they're going to leave. So when they get the facilities repaired, or FEMA comes in and says, hey, we're going to start construction, the concern is that you're not going to have the labor force to do that. So it's going to be a circular problem that, hey, we don't have the money to help yourself. We don't have the money currently to fund this. But when government assistance comes, that we're going to not have the people to do this. So, all the situation. We really decided we're a big employer. We're the best and second largest healthcare plan in Puerto Rico, and there's in times like this, there's nothing more important than your health. Listen, at the end of the day, on your last day, likely you're going to be worrying about your health. So it is extremely important that we take the initiative as a leader in the industry, and that's our vision. Our vision is to be the leader of the healthcare industry in Puerto Rico, to step up, do what we can, spend some money, but show a leadership position that we're going to help people to get out of this thing, because it is not the normal joy here in Puerto Rico. And if we do it, one person at a time, or we have 1,400 people at our office here in Hatoré, and 1,700 people collectively throughout the island, we can make a difference. And we feel if we really try hard, the other plans will help. We're about $2.4 billion in revenue. We pay a lot of people, and Liana, I'll tell you, the doctors are starting to get on board, and we're creating some momentum, which is what you need to succeed.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, kind of going back to what you were talking about before with, with some of the actions you've taken, to help out in the community. Are you finding that has a inspirational effect, or the other members of the business community are seeing that and they're taking on similar initiatives, or they're doing things to kind of maybe modeled after what you're doing? I mean, have you seen any of that?
That's a good question. I think that the spirituality of helping people, I think, resides in everybody, and I think that sort of like most crisis situations, people take a little bit of time to sort of figure out what to do. I think the government's a perfect example down here. Liana and I are a little bit more lucky is with quotes around it, because we live in Florida.
Yeah.
So we've seen, what was it, when Hurricane Charlie that year, Liana, when I don't know what year it was.
2004.
2004, when we had all those hurricanes come through, that our businesses were impacted, so we really knew what to do. So we hit the ground running. And I think that we're clearly seeing the verticalization. The people that are our vendors have jumped on board. They've phenomenally jumped on board with the fundraising that Liana's doing. We had a doctor's meeting yesterday or the day before. They're very much in tune. but people are just shell shocked. I mean, the hurricane was as big as the whole island, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And so we're saying, guys, we're not, sitting around not moving to the light is not going to solve the problem for you. So we feel like this thing's getting momentum. We feel like ultimately our goal is 100 to 200 volunteers a day, and we're getting to 50 pretty easily. So I've told our people that it's our job to free up resources. So we feel like it is getting momentum, and people realize that as much as you'd like to think somebody, be it the government or being your neighbor, is going to make it good, it's just us here. We're 1,000 miles from the next town over, which is Miami, and we've got to sort of take it upon ourselves to do it. So we feel like the momentum is getting there. We feel like the private sector is sort of moving, equally, if not past the government sector, and that's the only way we're gonna help people, because Big Brother will not help. We need companies like us. So we feel like we're winning. Liana, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a long road. I wouldn't declare victory yet, but what I think is encouraging, it's a little different in Puerto Rico. Jim and I were both taught in public accounting. He worked at Deloitte and I worked at Arthur Andersen. So we were sort of required to provide leadership, community service, contributions, our time and money, and it's expected of us. But in Puerto Rico, that isn't necessarily always a part of the culture. So it's been cool to see how when we talk about this, people are really signing up. And I just actually saw a note from one of our suppliers, I think it's actually a provider, who wrote a thank you note, which is kind of opposite of what you'd expect. Thank you for including us in your campaign. I'm so proud to be able to. I'm so glad you asked, and so proud to be able to contribute. And please ask me what else you need from me. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because initially everyone was so shell shocked that people were saying, well, we can't ask for money because everyone's in crisis. And what we've learned is actually the opposite. We can and should ask for money because people want to help. They just don't know how. And so that's been very cool. So that's very encouraging to see on the island.
Okay. That's great. I want to go back to something, Jim, you said earlier about the looming labor shortage. Are you finding that people leaving the island because of the hurricane and the subsequent disaster recovery? Is that having an impact on your business? Are you losing a lot of employees to that, or?
That's a good question. We're not now. We've probably lost. I think the number I heard most recently was 10, but we have a pretty big company, so so you do lose some people periodically. So I don't know that 10 creates a ripple vis-a-vis the historical rate. But I was up in D.C. lobbying this week, and we met with our friends from CMS, which is the oversight organization for Medicare Advantage, and they're very concerned about the migration from twofold. One is that sort of the problem in Puerto Rico here is that historically it's been underfunded. On the government level, the infrastructure is just not good. It wasn't good before this, and you could include electric, water, roads. All were not good. That's being kind. We're deficient, and then so they're poorly prepared when the biggest storm in 120 years comes by. But nobody would be. Miami wasn't prepared when Hurricane Andrew hits, and that's what we're talking about here. Right. So, New Orleans wasn't prepared when Hurricane wasn't prepared, but nobody can be prepared to that level. But the issue of migration is twofold. One, it's a very expensive proposition for the mainland. Because sort of the core funding allocation for Puerto Rico is so shamefully low that when Mrs. Rodriguez moves to the United States, that it costs 50% more. It costs 43% more on Medicare Advantage. It costs 60% more on Medicaid and all the social services that go with it. They could be much more expensive. So it is much more expensive to have those people move. But secondarily, if you believe that math exercise, then you would fund Puerto Rico, and what that would help in Puerto Rico is we would refill an integral infrastructure bucket that has to be filled for Puerto Rico to economically recover. The basics of healthcare, cause people to move. As I mentioned before, and I'm 56 years old, with a couple healthcare problems, but if you're a 56-year-old guy in Florida deciding should you come down, make your senior years or start your senior years with your last gig, you're not going to move down to a place that's got a bad health infrastructure. So then you talk about the labor pool. So you're saying, gosh, if we can't keep people here, the tax base goes down, the working base goes down, the bell-shaped curve of the economy goes down, and ultimately you have a tremendous problem that needs to be solved on the island of Puerto Rico. If D.C. just sort of throws their hands up and says, gosh, we're not going to give you a bailout, then everybody moves to Kissimmee, or people move to the Bronx, and it costs you $2 versus $1 to try to keep the economy. So absolutely, we will find a shortage of labor. We have a great company. We've been a tremendous steward during this awkward last 57 days. But at some point in time, and I can see it now, and I welcome Liana's input, every week people are a little bit more tired. You don't know that they don't take 3 hours to drive home when they used to take 30 minutes, or that when they get home, they don't have any power, they don't have any lights, they don't have any, anything to have hot food, they don't have clean water, so they can't take showers, or they just got basically a bathtub. Liana's Cuban, and she would tell me about the Cuban showers that you take a little bucket of water in the shower and pour a cup over your head. And we don't know that people are doing that. So I do see just a sort of general attrition in society now for those kind of people. So I think it's a colossal problem that is going to be the secondary problem, popping up here, in the first quarter. I think people, I won't say naively, but they sort of think, I'm going to get lights before too long, but I don't see that happening for a while. Then all of a sudden, there will be a mass migration. The current number is between 100 and 150,000 people have left, is the prognostication, and the ultimate number people think could leave within 2 years is 15 to 20%, which is 500,000 or 600,000 people. And that's extremely material to the workforce, to the tax base, to the labor force, to really just society. When you talk about that many people leaving, that's a crushing blow right there.
Yeah. So what's the end game if that happens? I mean, does the federal government? I mean, what do they do? They kind of just write off Puerto Rico and just say you're on your own, or? I mean, I don't see how.
I find that's a great question.
Or maybe they've already done that from your perspective, from what it sounds like.
No. Listen, we're O'Drobinaks are optimists. So the problem with Puerto Rico is it's a U.S. territory, of which 97% of the U.S. territories are this island. So it's got some awkward dynamics to it. The first one is you can't vote.
Yeah.
You can't vote in the U.S. elections, and it goes all the way down to where your taxes go. When we pay our taxes, although now we don't even have the IRS code, we have sort of a local code, and they stay here in Puerto Rico. So but nonetheless, they're U.S. citizens. We are U.S. citizens. You can come down here without a visa or a passport.
Yeah, I came down a couple of years ago. I had a great time. I stayed on Culebra Island, did some scuba diving. It was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a wonderful place. But at the end of the day, Puerto Rico filed bankruptcy in a manner that's 7 times larger than Detroit. So Puerto Rico is about the 30th largest state. If you were to, so it's a small place, and people say, Puerto Rico, but it would be the 30th largest state, about the 30th largest state from a population perspective. So it's not something that can get written off. More importantly, if you want to throw politics into this, the people are going to locate to Florida, and if you check the recent elections, as far back as I know the facts on, that he or she who wins Florida wins the United States. So disaggregating the vote of the Hispanic population in Florida tells you that Cubans vote 2-1 for Trump in the last vote. So if you're the Republicans, again, said differently, Mrs. Gutierrez that comes from Puerto Rico to move to hits the ground in Kissimmee, becomes a full-fledged voter. They vote a third as much for the Republicans as the Democrats. So notwithstanding the economical consideration of the end game, the practicality of it says you want to solve Puerto Rico in Puerto Rico. So I believe the end game is a humanitarian end game that says, listen, Puerto Rico is a very familial culture. People live with their families and love their families, and their moms and dads watch their kids, or their grandparents watch their kids. And it is the right thing to make Puerto Rico better down here. It's a problem that's not going to go away. Even before the hurricanes, it was a tremendous problem for U.S. and for the budget. And so it just becomes worse. So I just think the path is clear now. Crises create leaders and create actions, and hopefully create results. And America needs to, the mainland needs to solve this problem in Puerto Rico, because A, it's the right thing to do, and B, it's the cheapest thing to do to solve the problem down here in Puerto Rico. I'd like to, again, back to my Indiana roots, I'd like to naively believe that's the decision that'll be made, and I'm hopeful that it will happen that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're all hoping for that, of course. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you do get if the trends do reverse and you're able to get things moving back in the right direction, which hopefully they will, how soon do you see your business, or you getting back to business as usual, and B, how soon do you think things will get back to a relative sense of normalcy in Puerto Rico and the economy?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. I think that our business is contingent on so many different things. It's contingent on Mrs. Hernandez being able to get up and drive to the doctor. It's contingent on Dr. Ramirez being able to see her, get her tests out, bill through the internet. And so, it's a myriad of things that need to occur. We're hopeful that'll occur, in the first 2 quarters of next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's naive to think that it'll change before then.
Mm-hmm.
But as with anything, the horses in the back of the line follow the lead horse.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hopeful that individual companies like ours will spur a grassroots effort to break sort of the numbing inertia of such a colossal disaster occurring, and start to help people to make their lives be bearable.
Mm-hmm.
From an individual employer perspective and societal perspective. We're hopeful that the same leadership will permeate either north to south from the U.S. Congress down to the local government, or south to north from the local government, up to Congress and make them do something. We're sort of benefited by the fact that the U.S. government has not passed their budget this year, so they're in the process of passing their budget this year, which we'll hope that a package will be for Puerto Rico. But this is not a situation that's going to change tomorrow.
Yeah.
Liana and I are lucky because we have a son that's at Notre Dame. And to the degree we can get flights out, we come back and see our other son in Tampa. So we've been out off the island, 2 or 3, maybe 2 times in the 56 days since the hurricane has occurred. But it is not changing day to day, man. It is daunting. It gets to people, and that just says that the best people and the best company are given an opportunity to succeed. And that's what we think we're going to do. So we're hopeful that the holidays are a really big deal down here in Puerto Rico. I don't know when you came, but coming from about Thanksgiving to, I don't know, when's Sanse, Liana, January something?
Yeah, it's usually at the end of January.
There's a Saint San Sebastian holiday. Mm-hmm. Puerto Rico is the coolest place to be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Great family spirit, everybody having fun, music. We're religious people. It's got a religious undertone and just the family. And so I'm hopeful that will buoy the spirit. They'll continue to get the power on for people. And then, we'll start the year like everybody with a new spirit, a new New Year's resolution, and head northward from a progress perspective for next year. That's the plan.
Okay. Yeah, I think what you said, you summed it up really well. You said, it's a chance for the best people and companies to get the chance to really take the lead and succeed in inspiring So I think that's fantastic. That's just what we're looking for, the kind of stories to highlight. Other thing, if you guys,
hey, one clarification. I heard you mention the federal government, and I think the press has said a lot of things, and I think it needs to be clear. I don't, and I think Jim agrees with that. I don't think it's a lack of federal government dollars or presence on the island. We have a lot of presence on the island, and we can see the results of the money coming in. So anybody who says that, it's just that the logistics are. You have to be there to understand. It's just the logistics are so difficult, and you got these folks that are living at the top of a hill or a mountain where the bridge is washed out, and it takes an hour to get to the nearest town in a dirt road, and you don't even know that they're up there. And so, you could certainly find those stories, but I don't think it's the government's fault that they don't know those things there.
And I don't mean to be inferring that. We went over to some friend's house on Saturday night, and this guy happened to be, there's like a big. The bad news is the power in Puerto Rico is created in the south of the island, and through the middle of the island is mountains, and so the power grid sort of goes around the west, which is a beautiful area, and then comes all the way around the west, ultimately to the north where we're at, and then there's a main power line that goes right through the mountains, and that one got broken, and that's why our area is slower to recover. It's like you got to fix Tampa Bay. It'd be nice to fix Ruskin or some of those kind of places, but the population is in Tampa Bay. Those other people are important too, but the 80-20 rule says you fix Tampa Bay. But when they go to fix this, we had a buddy, we were at his house the other day, and he has a rock quarry as a business, and he's telling us how he watched the people from FEMA trying to they had one of those big 280 power lines that are the mamma jammas. There's only a couple of those. There's the one that goes around the west I talked to, and then there's the one that goes from the south and north. And he had that line to pull the towers on his land, and he was amazed at how painfully slow it was. It's those ones that are the girders,
Yeah.
And so he said they couldn't even, because they're putting them up in the mountains, they couldn't bring trucks there to put them up. They had to do by helicopter.
Oh, wow.
So just the logistics, one, the logistics of getting the materials down here, two, the logistics of getting the people down here, three, the logistics of replacing all this stuff where 98% of the cables are above ground on treacherous terrain. Very, very, very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. So, good stuff. But at the end of the day, listen, what I believe, and it's starting to come out now, but it's almost difficult to say, is that by virtue of this hurricane, I firmly believe that Puerto Rico will be better than it ever had the opportunity to be before. That the downside will be lower than the trajectory we had seen before. And again, Puerto Rico had filed the largest bankruptcy in the history of the United States before this. But now there's going to be FEMA money coming in, and there's going to be property and casualty insurance settlements by virtue of this catastrophe. And what Puerto Rico will do, will invest in infrastructure where they never had the money to do that before. So those power lines, you pray that they'll bury them. And the aqueduct system that has porous concrete that leaks a lot of water, you hope that they'll fix all that. So at the end of the day, if you're aspiring towards a goal, you're saying, listen, we have money that we've never had before. Let's spend it the right way. Let's fix the infrastructure. And then all of a sudden, once you fix the basics of society, then the top end comes a lot easier. That's what people like Liana and I believe. That's what we believe in healthcare. That's what I'm hopeful that we see as a society down here. So otherwise, I think you're treading water. And I think you're trying to keep your head above water and get out of a bankruptcy filing and deal with all that stuff with the debt holders. But now I think we're going to go a little bit, we're going to be treading water, a little deeper water, a little choppier water, but I think we're going to aspire to a much higher length. And I'm optimistic that that's going to occur. I'm an optimistic guy, but I think that's the trajectory, and the people I talk to, the leaders I talk to, believe the same way. I hope that's the end.
Yeah. Now, if you still got a minute or two, another thing I was wondering is, like, when it comes to charitable donations, Americans have been known to be very generous, but how's that been in this situation? Because there was Hurricane Harvey, and then Irma, and then Maria. I've heard some stories about charity fatigue. People just kind of becoming numb to it. Do you think that's been a factor in this situation? Is like just people not giving as much as they would have because of all the just a quick succession of all these storms, coming through.
Liana, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think so in our case. I don't know. I know that was a fear originally when we launched the campaign, but we just really didn't think about that too much. You could sit there and say it's not going to work because people are worried about. And you do hear a little bit of that on the island. You do hear some people on the island saying, well, they're only going to care about Texas. They're not going to care about us.
Mm-hmm.
And the response that Jim and I had was like, well, whatever. We still need to do it.
Yeah.
And I would say that we did not. We set the goal for the $1 million. We achieved the $1 million. We didn't have the fatigue that you're describing, and maybe that's because the people that we are reaching out to were just extra motivated or extra. A lot of people have a soft spot in their hearts for Puerto Rico, or maybe it's because we partnered up with our suppliers and providers who are looking for for a long time have been working with us. Some of our suppliers are in Florida and other places in the U.S. And so those folks, they know because they do a lot of business in Puerto Rico how important it is to lift up the island. So they gladly gave and they quickly gave, and there wasn't that issue at all.
Okay, glad to hear that.
Well, I tell you, the other thing is that Liana and I, we believe in succeeding. That we persist and we believe and we work hard, and there is no other way to solve this problem than by people just not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, for failure is just not an option. So all you do is delay victory a little bit, but you just can't give up in life. Liana and I are steadfast. We've hung in there through thick and thin, in personal and professional and kids and all this everything. That we believe we got to hang together, and you've got to find a group of people that are just going to win. And this has never been a scenario that has more depicted the need for that ideology. And so, God bless Liana that is doing this just tirelessly. We were sort of talking, after this, and I said, man, I should have got this foundation going sooner. Now I really need to get it going. And I wanted to do it, and we've done a good job of doing it. But without putting the steroids into it, and without getting the brand and the identity out there, and then all of a sudden Liana, quote, volunteered for this, and we just said we're going to do it, and Liana got the YMCA, and there's no shortage of charities that people needed, and when we say you got to be an official tax, charitable organization vis-a-vis the IRS regs, and that calls the list down a little bit. But then we just said, we're going to find these people, and we're going to do this. And Liana's seen all these organizations. They all need money, and they're all for kids, and they're all just people who have to be helped in life. And you're not doing your fair share as a human being if you don't just commit to doing something like that. And that's what Liana did, and that's what we did, and that's what everybody has to do. So we're not heroes. We're just doing our part.
Yeah. I think that's what everybody would say. Is there kind of on that topic? Is there anybody that you would want to mention in the article? Any other people who've been instrumental, in the foundation or any other part of your efforts to improve the situation there?
There's a couple people. There's a guy named Raul Rodriguez who runs a company called Clinical Medical, one of our vendors, who's helped move people back and forth, who's organizing help from South Florida. Raul's been tremendously helpful. Liana, who else would you mention?
Maybe the YMCA USA would be good to talk to. That's an example of when I called them, they already had raised $180,000, and the campaign was winding down. And I said, hey, we got this match, and they said, okay, let's do it. And so we raised an additional $200,000. They were worried about fatigue, but they did it anyway, and so they might be good to talk to. That's another one I can think of.
YMCA USA. Okay.
Yep.
USA. Chicago, Illinois. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And we've got a
local angle.
And
local angle if you want to start with that, because it started with me contacting the the leader of one of the partners at Ernst & Young, and then she put me in touch with the leader of YMCA here in Tampa Bay, and he was the one that connected me to YMCA USA. So it all started from Tampa Bay, and they helped me connect with the national people, and we did it that way.
Oh, okay, I see. All right.
And listen, we've had tremendous support from the states. There's a guy named Luis Masquera, Masquera, who's from one of our vendors down, our iVendor. They're in Miami. Raul Rodriguez is from Miami. We've had a lot of our stateside friends help us out a lot. I would say, Liana, 80-90% of our fundraising has come from stateside. Say?
Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is. It is a significant, when you consider the significant donations, and Jim, feel free to mention whichever companies you want. I was a little reluctant because I don't know which of your vendors you want to highlight. There's a lot of, especially the significant donations have come from stateside. Of course, we've also got $5 and $3 donations from our employees. We can't forget that.
Yep.